the very idea of church is pretty gay.
I know. It's so true.
Let's all get together in a room and sing songs together to a guy who isn't there.
Yeah.
Gay.
And you wear a robe.
Gay. Let's have, like, stained glass windows all over that are really colorful with, like, guys with abs on them. Gay.
I think we need some incense.
Gay. Church is gay. Hey, y'all. Sam Sanders here. Thank you so much for checking out my show. It is a pop culture show full of questions and hot takes about the pop culture we are obsessed with. But this week, I don't have any hot takes or any real big questions besides just, I like this guest. I like his work. I think you should all enjoy it as well. You may know him from the critically acclaimed television show Somebody Somewhere, but we're here today to discuss his new book, which has a most delightful cover. It is called Actress of a Certain Age, My 20-Year Trail to Overnight Success. Jeff Hiller is the author. I can't overstate how big of a fan I am. I'm honored you're here. Thank you, and welcome.
Oh my gosh, that's so genuine and nice, and I really appreciate it.
How not genuine are most of your press interviews?
Well, one time somebody was like, "You know him from HBO's Somebody Someplace," and I was like, "I don't think you know me from nothing."
Yeah. Well, it is always this, like, there's always this kind of double consciousness of interviews when you're on the circuit because,
Right.
like, on the one hand, there's art that you have made that you love that the guest hopefully will love as well.
Right.
But on the other hand, both of us are here also under contractual obligations,
That's so true.
right? Like,
Yeah.
your book tour is part of your book deal.
Right.
They're paying me for this interview.
The jig is up,
The
everybody.
jig is up.
This is commerce.
That said, I'm going to talk to you for free. I'm going to talk to you
That's
for
so
free.
nice. I would have talked to you for free, too.
There we go. I love it. Well, listen, we have so much to get into. I want to talk about the book. I want to talk about your work on TV and on stage. I want to talk about your upbringing. But first thing I have to bring up is a point of commonality.
Oh, okay.
We're both Texans,
Yeah.
but not just like both Texans. We have a very distinct and personal connection. Where'd you go to college?
Texas Lutheran College.
That's where my mother went.
You're kidding.
I'm not even kidding you.
Oh my God. I was like, oh, I thought I was gonna say it, and you were like, oh, I thought you went to Baylor.
No, my mother went to Texas Lutheran College.
That's so fun.
My parents met in Seguin,
Oh my gosh.
and we lived in Seguin, Texas, until I was in middle school.
You lived in Seguin?
Girl, yes.
Oh my God, where?
On Jefferson Avenue, across from Jefferson Elementary.
Yes. That's so crazy.
Right?
Yes.
Literally, when I got to that in the book, I screamed so loud my dog was like, what the hell's going on here? I've never seen Texas Lutheran University, formerly college,
Right, sorry.
written in a book.
Yeah.
Describe the school and Seguin for our listeners.
Well, the school is 1,000 students.
Mhm.
I think it's actually like 1,200 now or something.
Ooh.
But when I went there, it was about 1,000 students. It's basically it's like a large square block.
Yeah. You can drive by it
Yeah, exactly.
between red lights.
Exactly. And the town of Seguin is, I don't know the population of Seguin.
Definitely less than 50,000,
Yeah. And
yeah.
their big thing is that they are the home of the world's largest pecan.
which is made of concrete
Right.
and sits like a statue in front of the courthouse.
Right. So in theory, you could make a bigger pecan
You
and
really
take away
could. That said, we had a pecan tree in our front yard growing
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
And we'd pick them all, and my mom, or I think my mom outsourced the making of the pecan pies, but we
Right.
got the pecans. And there were a bunch of pecan houses in Seguin, there's pecan shops. Did you go to Pape's Pecan House?
No, I didn't know. I don't know about Papes.
Papes was the one.
Oh.
They closed down. Anywho. Seguin.
But we used to go to Mr. Zacharach, who would shell the pecans.
Oh, yeah.
From my
'cause the
grandma's
shelling
house.
is work.
Yeah.
The shelling is work.
Exactly.
I mean, like, I swear to you, I've never had an interview guest. who
I've
even
never
knows
had an
what
interview
Seguin
or know
is.
anything about it either.
And this is the thing. It's like, it's close enough to San Antonio, which is where we
Right.
grew up. But
Right.
it's like 30 miles out, and it feels pretty country adjacent.
Yeah, it's kind of rural,
Mm-hmm.
and there's definitely a lot of, you can smell some cows.
Yeah.
The chicken Tyson plant.
Yes. Yes. Is the Tyson plant still there? I mean, how would you know?
I don't know. Yeah,
I gotta
I
find
was
out.
there not that long ago.
Really?
And I think it smelled like Tyson. Yes. Yeah, they brought me back to answer questions for students who had questions. And speaking of humbling,
Mm.
3 people showed up.
Oh.
Now it's only 1,000 students, so there's
True.
not that many theater students. But
Yeah.
it was like, oh, and one of them was just like, "Can I ask you about American Horror Story?" That was all. And I was like, "Sure."
You're more than that.
Not to her.
We like this. Another Texan similarity that we have, and we'll get to this later in the interview, but I'm going to bring it up now. We were both church kids.
Yeah, hardcore.
I want to go to that because I wrote it down. You wrote in the book, quote, "There was a time when I attended church every single day of the week. Saturday youth group, Sunday services and Sunday school, Monday after school tutoring, Tuesday handbell choir, Wednesday senior choir, Thursday Alleluia children's choir. I was a teen assistant."
It was.
That's incredible. Did you love all that church or totally hate it?
No, loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no reason to be there otherwise.
You weren't forced?
No, and I wasn't getting paid or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't great at handbell choir. Like they were like, "You're musical. Let's go put you at middle C," but like middle C shows up a lot.
Uh-huh.
And so then I would just like sort of slowly get pushed down till finally I was like at the one big bell that just rang at the very end. They were like, "You're not very good at this."
It's hard because you aren't playing music, you're counting rests.
It's all about math.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was so stressful.
It is very stressful. Yes, you get it.
Yeah. And then, I'm big, so they were like, "Put him on the big bells." Yeah. But I loved the community of church. And I loved that because I was, nobody's ever like surprised when
Wait.
I tell them I'm gay.
You're gay?
I know, right? Exactly. So
We got to wrap this up. I didn't know.
and I'm old, so I grew up in the 80s in Texas, and so it was like not good times, and kids were so mean to me at school. But when you went to church, it was like a sanctuary. The sanctuary was a sanctuary, and so I loved the church because it was the one place where people were nice to me.
Can I tell you, as soon as I read you talk about that in the book, I said, oh, that was exactly my experience.
Yeah.
So I grew up in a Pentecostal church, like speaking in tongues, falling out.
Wow.
All the music sounded like the Blues Brothers. And my mother was a church organist, which meant that whenever the church was open and she was playing, we were there too. So I was at church many weeks, 6 times a week as well.
Right.
And our church was very much like gay, no bueno.
Right.
But the church was the one place in my youth where I wouldn't get bullied for sounding too gay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
it's a place I felt safe.
yeah, and you had a
Even-
community.
Exactly. And it was juxtaposed because, like, my church was very fire and brimstone.
Right.
And sometimes we would hear sermons about the ills of homosexuality
Oh, wow.
while the clearly gay choir director was sitting over there. My gay ass is playing the saxophone. And
You
everyone,
played the sax?
I did.
Oh my God, this church is cool.
We had a
Y'all
whole
had like
band.
a whole band.
We called our band the Posse. Girl, we were with it. But it was this weird juxtaposition where you knew that queerness was in this space.
Mm.
And you knew that the queer people in the church were actually the backbone of it.
Uh-huh.
And there would be a script that we all said against homosexuality.
Mm.
But it's almost as if the church secretly loved the gay ones the most.
Were you conscious of that? Like as a kid? Like were you like when you heard the ills of homosexuality sermon, were you conscious like this is about me? Or was it more like
I asked the questions here. Oh, I'm kidding.
Sorry.
No, I love. Okay, cute. No, yes. Was I conscious? And then,
sorry, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
we're friends talking.
we are. I'm going to answer the question, and then you will.
Okay.
In for your experience, I remember my first sexual thoughts being about boys,
Right.
and I remember thinking the thoughts and then apologizing to God for them.
Aw,
Yeah.
Sam, sweet kid.
Hey, come a long way. Look at me now.
No apologies now.
No apologies. What was your experience?
Um, yeah, I definitely. I don't remember like actually vocally apologizing to God, but I definitely felt guilty and was always trying to atone to God.
What was your atonement?
Um, I'll stop. I'll stop
Oh,
now. I
one
swear.
day, just give me one more.
Exactly.
One more. Sorry.
Oops.
Yeah.
Oops, I didn't stop. Um, yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, and I felt a lot of guilt there. Fortunately, we didn't. Our church was like, Protestant and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and very like we're not going to take political sides or whatever. And so um, there wasn't a lot of like talk about the ills of homosexuality.
Gotcha.
But it was still the unspoken is spoken.
You knew. It
Yeah.
was Texas in the 80s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so
Yeah.
I was like, I'm so scared that I will be discovered or that I will be found out or
Mm.
and I really thought for a long time I thought I'll just be, the guy that lives in a house alone.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had mapped out my life. And I
Right.
was like, I guess I'll marry a woman, have kids, do what I got to do. At one point, some folks in the church were like, you're going to be a preacher. You know how they do. They're just like, we see it.
Right.
And I was like, I guess I'm going to have to be a preacher and I got to figure out how to have sex with a woman, but I guess. You're just like, okay, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because you believe people when they say that. That's why it's so important. Because they're saying, "I see something in you. I
Exactly.
see something special in you,"
Exactly.
and it feels very gratifying.
Yeah.
But then you have to think like,
What do
is that what I want?
What do I want? Yeah.
And I was going to be a pastor too.
I remember this. And I remember there's a space in the book where you talk about how so much of the church that you knew, on some things they were like progressive. They wanted integration. They
Right.
wanted to help the poor and needy.
Right.
They believed in the church being, to a certain extent, a place, if not for social justice, for helping the vulnerable
Yeah.
and being the nicest to the most vulnerable. And then
Right.
there's this moment, I forget how old you are in the book, but you say, and then I realized they don't allow gay ministers.
Right.
And whoa, that kind of, was that a reset for you and how you relate to the church?
Yes, it was a shock, which is like
Which is wild.
the most ridiculous thing that's ever been said. Where I'm like,
yeah.
what? You don't like me? It really was like the first time I realized like, oh, there's flaws.
Wow. How old were you?
20.
Girl.
Sam, it's embarrassing, but it's true. It's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
It took a long time. I'm also like naive and hopeful and like to believe in structure and
Yes.
follow rules.
Yes.
And also I think up until that time I had really thought that gay was bad.
Yeah.
And I was really coming around to understand that who I was is who I was and was made by God.
Exactly.
And so
Why would God keep making us if there was a mistake?
Exactly.
Like, he could have changed the assembly line.
Right, exactly.
Anywho.
And it's kind of weird, right? It's like cruel.
Yeah.
Um,
Let's keep doing this.
exactly. Oh, I'm going to give you a crust of air. So yeah, that's when I realized like I don't think I can be a pastor. And because you could have been a gay pastor in my denomination, you could have been a gay pastor. You just had to be celibate, whereas a straight pastor could get married and have kids and family and stuff like that. And I thought that was
No fun.
rude. Yeah, yeah. I thought that was not nice. Now, since then, my denomination has moved on and
Lutheran,
allowed,
right?
yeah, Lutheran.
They're like kind of the most progressive now.
Yeah, and they allow openly queer pastors to marry and everything.
Yeah.
But
Are we going to see Pastor Jeff Hiller at some point?
no, the collar doesn't work on my neck.
It is funny, though. I was reading this part of the book and thinking about your struggle with sexuality in the church and then mine. And then I was like, you know what, though? What's so funny about all of this is, like, inherently, the very idea of church is pretty gay.
I No, it's so true.
Let's all get together in a room and sing songs together to a guy who isn't there.
Yeah.
Gay.
And you wear a robe.
Gay.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's have like stained glass windows all over that are really colorful with like guys with abs on them. Gay.
I think we need some incense.
Gay. Church is gay.
Yeah, I know.
Church is gay.
I know. I always thought, even as a kid, like the part where people would speak and then immediately sing, I was always like, oh, this is
Gay.
like a Liberace concert.
Like imagine
Candelabras.
Come on, exactly. It's just gay.
Yeah. Well, and it's ritual and it's pageant, and that is something that we associate with queer folks. And I love that part. And I miss
Kind
that
of the
part.
most fun part.
Yeah.
You miss it. What do you miss the most from church?
The community and the ritual and commonality, I think, of we all have the same belief system.
Yeah. And when you're here, we help you.
Right.
There were several times in my church growing up where like somebody would come in off the street, drunk or high off their ass.
Mm,
You don't kick them out.
right.
You're going to sit with them. Someone will talk to them. There was a moment in my church when I was in college age. We had these new members show up, a couple, a man and wife. He's clearly gay. He's clearly gay and married to a woman. He's already thin, but over the time he's at the church, I don't know any of this, but he starts to get thinner and thinner and thinner
Oh, no.
and sicker and sicker and sicker. And then he dies. We have the funeral. And they tell me afterwards, because I just wasn't in the loop,
Right.
oh, yeah, the whole time he was dying of AIDS.
Right.
And we took care of him.
That's beautiful.
And it's like, that's what the church does.
Yeah.
I miss that.
Yeah.
I miss that.
Yeah, and I the church now gets this, like, politically we see the church, siding with these groups of people that
Yeah.
these unspoken groups of people that are that lead with hate.
Yeah.
And
When all the church that we know is leading with love.
yes, exactly. And I really do miss that. And that compassion was considered Christian.
Yeah.
And it's not really anymore.
And it was considered like the first thing you show.
Yes, exactly.
Like you lead with that,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
I'm very interested in how that part of you, all that we've just talked about, has ended up in your work. I'm going to come back to the book, but like in Somebody Somewhere, your character is kind of in not a quite similar church boat, but like a lot of the
Yeah.
issues are the same. I guess first set up Somebody Somewhere for folks who haven't watched it yet. You should watch it. And then set up your
It's
character.
streaming now
It sure is.
on
Peabody Award winning.
HBO Max. I can say that because it's going back. It's primarily a show about Bridget Everett, who plays this woman named Sam, who comes back to her town to help take care of her dying sister. The show starts after about 6 months after her sister's died, and it's really about finding your found family, which is a very queer thing.
Oh, yeah.
And
Which is, to take you back to church, what is a church but a found family? Gay.
Oh, I like how you're really taking these takes to the camera. It's so fun.
I know.
I'm into it. And so she finds her found family through a friendship with my character Joel, and he awakens her ability or her gift of singing.
Yeah.
He makes it safe for her to sing again,
Yeah.
and he does that through this thing that he does called choir practice at his church, which is really just a party
Yeah.
where people of all the people that are the outcasts can come together
Yeah.
and have a party together.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's church. And
Right?
and there's like I say that in an episode, I scream, "This is church! This is church!" while we're having a party, and I really do believe that firmly. And that came from me, that came from Jeff, not the script. So I think I believe that firmly.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a moment in the show where your character, who's gay in the show, has to make peace with someone in their life who bars him from their children.
Mm.
And it felt quite beautiful. And I think about it a lot in terms of the ways a lot of queer people who leave the church consistently make peace and find ways to love people who don't always love all of them.
Yeah.
It seems pretty beautiful, but also hard. I'm
Yes.
wondering, knowing that your character has done that, have you had to do that in your own life? Or has it been one of those, like, I'm
Charmed
out
lives where
now and
everybody's so
everyone just,
nice.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I have had to. Nobody's who's like barred me from seeing their children or anything
Hmm.
that deep, but there were some people who didn't take it well,
Hmm.
who I just had to sort of reconcile that that was not where they were
Hmm.
ready yet. That doesn't mean that I need to um, go out of my way to, I don't know, make them happy, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think, I mean, this is so hack and so cliche, but it's also a gift to yourself, right? To not be like burdened by all of that hate
Hmm.
and despising these other folks. Um, there's one person in particular I'm thinking of who she just really had a hard time with in her, with me coming out, and her parents, you know, were very vocally against queerness
Hmm.
and uh one time wrote to her and said, you know, I um it hurt the way you responded to me, but I understand where you were coming from.
Hmm.
And she wrote, no, it's different now. I have a lesbian friend.
Wow. Wow.
So, you know, everybody can grow.
Also, as always, the best among us are the lesbians.
That is so true. That is so
Always.
true.
Always. In the book and in just your public life, you are one of the few people, I think, who is out in Hollywood, but will also talk about faith and believing in God in Hollywood.
Hmm.
I don't think you're the only one, but I think that a lot of folks don't talk about it as much as they might want to.
Yeah, it's really rare.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's because a lot of churches that lead with hate have sort of
Yeah.
co-opted the conversation
Yeah.
and have really, um, you know, led with um, banning people who are transgendered from like Earth. I think is
Yeah.
what they're hoping.
Also, they didn't want to go to your church anyway.
Exactly, and also you clearly have never met anyone who is trans.
Yeah. And
Like
even if they did, they wouldn't be able to tell, probably. They wouldn't even know.
exactly,
They
they
wouldn't
might
even
have.
know.
They
You
might
might have
have.
met it, not even know.
I know.
Yeah.
Um, uh, so I think that that's a thing, and I think it's also just it's easier storytelling to be like church plus gay equals oppression of gay.
Mm.
And it's much more difficult storytelling to have this nuanced approach of you know a rural queer person also finding their community in a church. It's not, you have to do a lot of backstory on that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
sometimes people are like, eh.
Yeah.
And also like I don't think Hollywood's not like a real Christian town,
True.
you know.
When you were doing this work on somebody somewhere that went there, would you hear from all these queer Christians?
Yeah, well, a lot of my friends who I went to college with, who are pastors now, found it
Oh.
so refreshing because there's so little media that paints the church in any sort of good
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
I mean, even the movies that do, they're often like actually like sort of
Oh, yeah.
weird,
Yeah.
parallels to really talk about hating.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like the character in the show that is a pastor. Oh, sorry, I just
All
did a
right.
weird hiccup.
It's okay. It's okay.
Do I say it? The pastor that's in the show is played by a woman, and the first line she says is, "I want to get margaritas for dinner tonight." And like so many of my female pastor friends were like, thank you
Yeah.
for showing a woman who's like
Yeah.
a pastor and who's not like
Living a life.
exactly, and who's not some sort of like weirdo, not weird, that's judgmental, but
It's
like
okay.
who's super like prim and proper and
Yeah.
everything's got to be blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And also how she was so compassionate, Pastor
Mhm.
Deb. Um and so so many friends have reached out about that, and a lot of gay people who are members of faith communities have reached out saying like it means so much. I have like the kind of perfect amount of fame where like I can walk down the street just fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't need to hire bodyguards by any means. But when I do meet someone who knows who I am,
It's just
they are so touched. They
Yeah.
are so moved and so happy that the show showed truth about them,
exactly.
and in a nuanced way, in a compassionate way, in and I mean I'm not just talking about queer people or church people. I'm talking about just like Midwesterners.
This is the thing.
Yeah.
This is the thing. So it's funny. I was talking with someone about I forget which show, but they were talking about why they loved a show, and they said, "I love it because it's not just focused on rich people." It's like, oh crap! Most of the TV that we're told to watch is about rich people.
Yeah.
I'm watching Sirens right now.
Oh,
It's fun.
it is
Really
fun.
fun. Watch it.
Yeah.
Rich.
So rich.
So rich.
Well, Megan Fahey isn't, but yeah.
Yeah. She's going to end up rich, I'm sure, in the show. I'm like halfway through. I'm like,
Oh, you haven't
she's going to get a
finished
bag. She's going to get a bag. Or death.
No spoilers. No.
And it's like, yeah, so much of media that's coming out of quote unquote Hollywood,
Mhm.
it's only about rich people.
Yeah.
It paints politics as a binary.
Right.
You're either right or left and far apart in those divisions. And it rarely has place for the good guys on these screens to also believe in God.
Yeah. Yeah. And to I mean, it's like I'm a writer too.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard to tell stories, and it's really hard to sell stories.
Yeah.
And
And they want the stories to be like the last story that was a hit, and it needs to exactly, you know.
and I know that so many people didn't even tune into our show because we're all wearing, clothes from Kohl's. We got bad hair and we look a little sweaty. You know what I mean? Because we look normal. We look like
Mhm.
normal people from the Midwest.
Yeah.
And so some people found that refreshing, but I think some people, are like, I just want to see, show me Sarah Jessica Parker in a funny hat,
Right.
which same, I want to watch that hat too. But I think that it is refreshing to see people who are middle-aged,
Yep.
who don't look perfect, who
Mhm.
who my face is not symmetrical.
Neither is mine. One of my ears is higher than the other.
Really? One of my
Yeah.
shoulders is higher
Oh.
than the other. I had a fitting and the guy goes, "Oh, your shoulders." I was like, "Oh God." Anyway, yeah, we're not symmetrical, and we are not all thin and beautiful, and I think that can be radical to just see a
Yes.
show where people
Yes.
are
Real people.
real people.
Real
Exactly.
people.
Yeah. And we're we have to work, and we have to uh we can't just like get on a jet and fly to the Hamptons.
You know? Yeah. I think a lot about what that kind of representation would do for queer politics right now.
Hmm.
We're taping during Pride Month.
Yeah.
And the existential question of Pride Month this year is, how to party when the trans community seems to be under attack.
Seems to be.
I know. Let me strike that from the record. Is, and so much of the public debate on trans rights
Mhm.
is extremely binary.
Totally.
The people who think that trans folks should have rights are secular demons.
Mm.
And the people who don't think they should have rights are conservative Bible thumpers.
Right.
But in reality, not all of Christianity or any faith community is totally set one way or the other.
Right.
And in fact, as we've discussed, there are a lot of queer people and trans people who have some sort of belief in a higher power.
Yeah.
Why are those people never part of this public conversation? I do not hear trans people who live in the Midwest who believe in God given microphones.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, because they don't make good copy. I mean, I have no idea. I think it's probably just, these are people living their lives. There's no hook.
Yeah.
There's no like, can you believe it? It's
They're
like,
just living.
oh, humans.
Crazy how that works. Just humans.
Which is
Yeah.
why the show is sort of quietly radical, because
Yes.
there is a character who is trans on it, played by Murray Hill beautifully, and he isn't um, persecuted
Mhm.
or depressed or he
Mhm.
he's also like living his life, and he married a woman, and turns out his friends don't really like the woman he married, and these are normal people things, not like
Yeah.
it's not just trans stories about
Conflict or suffering.
yeah, exactly, which is radical in its own way.
Mhm.
And for so many years trans people were just a joke.
Yep.
And I mean, this is like very recent,
Mhm.
very, very, very recent. Um, and so God, I should have looked at what the name of the I just saw this great documentary. It's from the same director of Disclosure. Um, and it's about the first, and I can't think of the name, and I'm sorry,
Well,
but
we'll check it up and it will find it for us.
uh, it's um, it's about the first openly trans lawyer who argued a case before the Supreme Court,
Oh.
and they made it in
Was
18
is
months.
this is recent, right?
Yeah, very
Chase
recent.
Strangio.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. So the doc is
Yes,
called Heightened Scrutiny. The lawyer is Chase Strangio.
right. So I
Yes.
just saw the documentary at Newfest, and it was beautiful. Um, there's a little girl in it who is
Mm.
amazing,
Mm.
and but they did a talk back, and they said that the reason there is so much um, backlash right now is
Mhm.
because there were strides that were made so quickly,
Mm.
which is not to say that we shouldn't have made quick strides.
Y'all went too fast. Y'all gays flew too close
It
to
was
the
your
effing
fault.
sun.
It was your fault.
Slow down.
But I think that is why there is so much backlash right now, is because, and also it's like what you said, all of the discourse is binary.
Mhm.
And so like the one binary that we're taught from being babies,
Boy,
like the
girl.
first thing is,
Boy, girl.
yeah, is it a boy or is it a girl?
Yeah.
And so non-binary people are just like boggling
Oh,
their
yeah.
minds.
Oh, yeah. Well,
that
yeah.
you just choose one.
Yeah. Well, and like there are still people in this country who were like, "We let y'all get married. God damn it. What else?" Like I mean, I think of the world that you and I grew up in. I'm 40. When I was a kid, you'd still hear the F slur on the playground.
Oh, constantly, every day,
And
multiple times a
right?
day.
Fast forward to now, half of my gay friends are divorced. Wow. Wow.
what what a beautiful way to show progress. I pay alimony.
Yo, and they be paying alimony. Also, every gay couple in LA that gets divorced has the most obscenely intricate dog custody.
Oh, if my husband and I ever divorced, that would be the big. I am definitely one of those gay people who's like, my babies, my sweet sweet babies. I am 100% that person. So I really cannot throw any stones to that glass house.
If you were to make a show or a movie right now that would do for women's rights and the conversation around that, what Murphy Brown did, what might do for gay men on screen, what Will and Grace did. If you had to write a show or movie that would do a similar kind of eye opening for most of America about queer people, what is the elevator pitch for that show?
Oh my God. Well, if I knew this, I'd be making $1 million.
You wouldn't be here if you knew that.
I mean, I think the big thing is um, showing humanity of queer people, because I
Mhm.
think that the reason that Will and Grace was so powerful, I,
Mhm.
I think Will and Grace, there's a direct line from Will and Grace to gay
Oh yeah,
marriage.
because Biden says it. Biden was like, "I love Will and Grace," and Biden pushed Obama to gay marriage.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Because it, I think a lot of people didn't know anybody who was gay.
Yes.
And then they were like,
Yes.
oh, Will. I know Will.
And I like him.
Jack's a bit too much, but I like Will. But it helped,
Yes.
and I know that there's probably criticism of Will and Grace that's
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
warranted,
yeah.
but I think that
It was an asexual show.
exactly. But I think the big thing about it was that it humanized
Mhm.
two openly gay men.
Mhm.
Now, one of them was played by a straight person, and one of them was played by a closeted gay person at the time. But I will say, I will say that it really, really pushed the needle.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's really the key
Mhm.
and I think somebody somewhere, it doesn't get the numbers that Will and Grace did by any means, but
It's a different time.
it is a different time. But I think that there have been a lot of people, like when we went back to Kansas, people who watched the show because they just knew Bridget from
Yeah.
high school,
Yeah.
fell in love with Murray Hill,
Mm.
and had never met a trans person before.
Yeah.
And did they say some things that were maybe not appropriate?
Yeah.
Yes,
Listen, they don't know the language
but
yet.
also it was coming from a place
There you
of
go.
openness and compassion, and so
There
you
you
were
go.
able to, deal with that. Um, eh, but that was the key,
Mhm.
was meeting people.
Yeah.
That's why in the 70s they were like, come out wherever you are,
Yeah.
because they needed to.
You got to be seen.
Your neighbors,
Yeah.
your friends,
Yeah.
they're queer too.
I love it. I want to
I'm
ask
sorry I
a
got
little.
Invisalign, and I feel like I'm very. And it's not even for a cosmetic reason. It's just that my mouth, I have such a bad bite that it was causing my gums to recede.
Oh no, girl.
I know, I'm
Take
eating
care of
myself
yourself.
alive.
This is the thing. So I was always like, I want to get TV teeth, perfectly straight.
Yeah.
And my parents,
You have perfect.
no, girl, killer by cuspids. Me and Jewel, the singer.
The singer. Yeah, I know.
But so it's funny. As a kid, I asked the dentist. I was like, "Can I get braces?" And the doctor was like, "You don't really need it." And I was like, "Mama, I still want them." She was like, "I ain't paying for that." And my country,
They are kind of
they
expensive.
are. My country ass dentist was like, "If you want to just straighten that tooth, you take a popsicle stick while you watch TV and just pull it, pull it, pull it." And I was like, "You cannot be serious." And he was like, "Yeah." So I tried the popsicle pull for like a day, and I was like, "This shit's for the birds," and I never did. But then in adulthood, I was like, "Let me get Invisalign." Then I found out you gotta brush your chompers like 8 times a day after
It-
you eat. After you're constantly maintaining.
Do you know what the most pitiful thing is? I'm
What?
like, I hope I lose weight, because so many times I'm like, oh, it's not worth eating that thing. I have to take these out.
Really?
Yeah.
I had a dear friend who had them for a while, and she was always brushing her goddamn teeth,
Yeah.
and I felt sorry for her.
You do, but and also you never feel clean because
Oh.
they put these little things on to make them hook it in there, and it just
Oh.
feels like you have food stuck to your teeth, but it's glued little pegs.
Oh my god. How
But
long
don't
are
I
you,
look
you
gorgeous?
look gorgeous. How long are you in this hell of Invisalign?
24 weeks.
All right, that's not too bad.
Yeah, but I'm in week 1. 6 months. It's okay.
Okay.
I'll,
Okay.
I'm on track to take them off the week of my 50th birthday.
Look at that.
Hmm.
And that's a gift.
Yeah. And so then I'll be in my 50s sleeping with a retainer at night.
So be it. So be it. What is your wish for 50 for yourself?
Oh. Just to keep growing.
Mm,
Because like I don't, you just said you're 40.
I'm 40. Yeah.
So when I turned 40, I had like a full on midlife crisis.
Thank
I
you.
talk about
Me
it in the
too,
group.
girl.
Because I
Aren't
thought
they
my life
great?
would be so different.
Yeah.
I thought I would.
Yeah.
I like 40 felt so middle age,
Yes.
and
Yes.
and so I really I felt like I should be further along. I felt like I should,
Mm-hmm.
because I was like temping
Yeah.
and teaching improv, and
Yeah. And then you were
And being
teaching
like,
improv,
"Will
and
I
then your
get health
improv students
insurance?"
were making it.
Yeah, that was rough too. That was rough too.
Which of the Broad City folks was it?
Abby Jacobson.
You
Yeah.
taught her,
Uh-huh.
and then she's on Broad City while you're still temping?
Uh-huh. Yeah. But then she did let me be on Broad City, which I thought was nice. And I didn't
Yes.
even have to audition, so that was very nice.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And with Abby, it was like I just really liked her, so it was
Great.
There were
Yeah.
people that I won't mention that made it that I was like, "Are you kidding me?" But um, yeah, I did go kind of crazy,
Mhm.
and I kind of thought like, oh, there's no more like this is it. This is just what my life is going to be,
Mhm.
and that's dumb. That was a dumb thought.
Yes.
I don't want to talk bad about myself, but that particular thought was dumb
Yeah.
because you can
Yeah.
continue to grow. You continue to like if you want to start a new career at 60, start a new career at 60.
Yeah.
Like who cares?
Yeah. And if you wanna stay in your career track and you haven't made it yet, you can stick with it. That's the story of you. You stuck with it for a long time before it happened.
I know. I remember that movie that Ira Glass produced, the Mike Birbiglia movie.
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen it.
It's
Is it good?
called Don't Think,
Uh-huh.
and I think it's called Don't Think. You might need to check that too. And it was about these improvisers who were all like trying to get on SNL or like a fake SNL,
Mhm.
and one of them was like turning 40,
Mhm.
and in the whole point of the movie was like you need to give up. And
Oh,
I watched that movie
ah.
like on the eve of my 40th birthday, and I was like, oh my God.
Mike Birbiglia, if you're listening, and I know that he likes public radio, you owe Jeff Hiller a call.
I like Mike Birbiglia a lot, but that movie did send me into a tailspin.
This is a social pull. We will tag Mike Birbiglia.
Yeah. I mean, and I suppose I think a lot of my friends did give up, and it was the right choice for them.
How did you know to not give up?
Well, because I it took me so long to come out of the closet as wanting to be an actor. It was very similar to coming out as gay, where it was like,
Wow.
I don't want to admit this. I'm embarrassed about this.
Mhm.
This is something that I feel shame about even.
Wow.
And so because I felt like I would say it and people would be like, "You think you can be an actor? You are dumb."
Mm.
And,
Why do you think they would say that?
because I'm like, you know, I look like this and I'm obviously gay and I'm tall but girly, which is like a weird juxtaposition that people have a really hard time like reconciling. And you know, there's no one, it's not like you can be like, oh, you're like that person.
You're like you.
Right. Yeah.
You're
Yes.
like you. Yeah.
Exactly.
Uh.
And, you know, people would be right to think that because it has been a really hard time to sort of define what could hire this thing, you know? It was not easy. And I'm, now that the show is over, it's continuing to not be easy.
Ah.
So, it's confusing and so I was embarrassed to admit that.
Mm.
And it took me a long time to do it. But once I did it, once
Mhm.
I made that and I
Mhm.
put myself out there, I was like, now I'm determined to prove them wrong.
Hell yeah.
I'm going to do this.
Hell yeah.
And also I just love it. I love it way more than anything else. It's the only job I'm good at. And I'm actually really good at it. Like if you
Yeah.
hire me to be a guest star, you're lucky.
Baby. Yeah.
I show up, I do not complain. I will wear anything. You tell me you don't want me to have eyebrows, I won't have eyebrows. I am fine with it.
Yeah.
And I also know my lines and I can take nothing and make it a little funny.
Mhm.
So,
And you also didn't you do a one-man show at some point?
yeah, I did.
Anyone who can do a one-man show can do anything. I think it's the hardest thing to do ever.
Have you done one?
No! It seems very difficult.
Yeah. Well, I've done several that I've written, and then I did one that someone else wrote that I just performed,
Mhm.
that Drew Droege wrote, called Bright Colors and Bold Patterns, which is a really great play.
Mhm.
Um, eh, it's kind of nice though, because You don't have to wait for anybody else to talk. And sometimes, like when I'm doing my own material,
Mhm.
I know it on sort of a base level enough that I know I can sort of fake it, and I'm like, I'm the writer. Who cares if I mess it up a little bit?
Yeah.
But when I was doing his show, it had several beats that you needed to
Mhm.
hit, and there were a couple of times the night that RuPaul came to see the show,
Oh.
I heard that iconic laugh that you always hear on the bumpers of
Wait, you
Drag
heard him
Race.
in the audience?
Yes.
That's amazing.
And I was like, "Oh," and I like went up and
Uh-huh.
I like skipped a whole 2 pages of dialogue that you needed for for like what do you call it? Exposition.
Yeah.
And because it was just me and I didn't have to rope anyone else into it,
You just went back.
I was able to wrap myself around it and get it back in. So in a way, that would I would if I had skipped 2 pages of dialogue and had 3 other people on stage, we would have had to really work hard to get back to it.
Yeah. 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 I love it. I think for me, with 40, I think I had these two epiphanies. Like, we're taught culturally that, like, all of the quick and fast, forward and upward movement is going to happen in our 20s and 30s.
Right.
So if you don't get where you're going by then, you might not ever get it.
Yes.
And so you spend your 20s and 30s
There's no top
frenetic.
40 comics
Exact-
under 40.
Exactly. So I spent my 20s and 30s really scrambling, really running fast, and really on edge the whole time. And then the closer I got to 40, the more I was almost angry with that version of myself for how chaotic they were.
Mm.
But I think the work of 40 was saying, you still love that version of you.
Mhm.
And in fact, that version of you got you here.
Yeah.
And your life as you know it wouldn't have happened without that version of you. So, like, love every version of you. And then 2, all right, you're 40 now. You got the wiggles out. You got the wiggles out and just, like, freaking lock in.
Yeah.
And so 40 has been very much like, let's lock in. And not lock in the girl boss, late stage capitalist version of, like, how do I optimize everything?
Right.
But how do I get really intentional about what I want, who I want to be around for it,
Yeah.
and how I want to feel as I get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that feels good.
Yeah. Yeah.
That feels good. But yeah, it is. I don't know where I'm going with this. I've just told you everything. But anywho.
I love it. I'm like, oh yeah, I should be doing that. Because like what you said about like loving every part of yourself, it is so important.
It is. Especially for queer people.
Yes.
Because I can look back at myself and see the close to quarter century I spent trying so hard to not let anyone know that I was gay when in fact everyone knew.
Mm.
And part of me wants to get mad at that Sam.
Mm.
But when I'm nice to that Sam, I say, girl, you did what you thought you had to do. You tried your best.
That's how I felt writing the book too. Like I was embarrassed to write about I wrote a chapter about bullying.
Yeah.
And I was so embarrassed to write about it because I was kind of embarrassed to admit that people hated my guts. But I really was embarrassed to put in the pictures of myself at that age because it is such a physically ugly age.
Oh!
It is
for everybody.
Right. And like,
Except
I
but
got
the
a
ones that are really
perm.
hot in high school, guy.
Yeah,
I don't hate
exactly.
you,
I know.
but
Exactly.
you don't know how good you had
What
it.
growth do you have? But it was really, it was cathartic to put the photo in because it was like, I love this little kid who's chubby and whose mom gave him a perm and who is, pitiful and trying.
That part.
Yeah.
Trying.
Yeah.
Every version of ourselves was trying very hard to love us in the best way they knew how to love.
Exactly.
And I say the same thing when I think about the church that I grew up in. We were there. We were talking about this earlier. It's like they were actually loving us the best way they knew how.
Right. And if you're going to extend compassion to them in that sense, why wouldn't you extend compassion to yourself in that sense? Yeah.
We're not going to charge y'all for this therapy session. But we could.
Read my book.
Speaking of the book, that's a nice segue.
We did just get really deep. Sorry, is that weird? Is that weird, internet? I apologize.
That's what we love, girl. That's what we love. We had, oh my God, we had Rachel Bloom on here a few months ago. We were talking about all about COVID and death.
Yeah.
And then we had Jessica Williams on. And when she showed up, she was like, Hormones are all over the place. My eggs were just frozen. I'm on some existential shit, and we're like, go there. And that was our most popular episode ever. She was talking life. So I love
I
this.
love that.
Our listeners and viewers love it too.
Good.
In the book,
That's so deep
it was deep.
that she came in. And Rachel Bloom is actually a good friend of mine.
Her special was where we talked. You saw the special, right?
I did.
Wow.
Ugh.
Wow.
And I saw it live.
Oh.
And so.
I saw it when she was still workshopping. I saw it at the Largo.
Oh,
Not the
okay.
official taping.
Oh, nice.
And when the guy shows up.
Yes,
no
I was
spoiler.
like, oh no.
I wanted to call security. I was like, this was not for Rachel. Not
so
for my
true.
girl from West Covina. No.
You know, I was on that show. Did
I
you
know.
that?
Oh, yeah. My favorite Crazy Ex-Girlfriend song, always, Sexy Getting Ready Time.
Oh my God. Body rolls are hard.
Yes. You know it. Back to the book. I love that this memoir is the story of your life, but it is also a love letter to celebrity memoirs.
Yeah, because I read a lot of them.
Okay. What do you think explains your obsession with celebrity memoirs?
Oh, because I wanted to be a celebrity. And so I thought maybe if I read this, it'll tell me how. Also, I think I like hearing people's stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I'm asking you questions. Because I like hearing about other people's lives. And like a lot of times, you can get some real campy, funny things out of these
A
memoirs.
lot of them are really funny and like great writing.
Yes.
Like, every now and then it'll be like an incredible celebrity memoir.
Yes.
You like don't think they're all just ghostwritten and dumb. And sometimes even the ghostwritten ones are great too.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
100%.
You know?
Yeah.
They can be good.
That Britney one?
Girl.
It's great.
when because White Michelle Williams
Yes.
did the read
Yes,
for
I
the
listened to it.
audiobook. When she gets to the part where Britney's making fun of Justin Timberlake's black scent. Genuine! Faux shiz!
I saw so many people meme that and put it on Instagram. It was so good.
So good.
She did a really good job reading that
She
book, though,
really
because it was
did.
kind of a long book.
It was a very long book. Each chapter is dedicated to a particular celebrity memoir, right?
Yes. And I read all of them but one.
Which one?
I didn't read the Tim Allen one. But
You don't have to.
It's the title is so perfectly
What's the
matched.
title?
The title is "Don't Stand Too Close to a Naked Man," and I was in a movie once where I played a naked ghost, and so it was like, this is so perfect. I can't not choose
gotta
this
use it.
title.
Yeah.
But every other book I read.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Which one has been your favorite?
Oh, should I pick my favorite pet too? I loved Rita Moreno's. I loved Rosie Perez. I love
Yeah.
Rue McClanahan's.
Oh.
I love Janice Ian. That's a deep cut.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was really good. I love Candice Bergen's.
Of course.
Cher's was great.
Yeah.
Barbara's was great.
Barbara's is long. It's a tome.
Yeah. I listened to the audiobook. It was 48 hours and 15 minutes.
Girl.
I finished.
You love Babs.
I was all in.
Really?
Because I didn't really worship her. And when I listened to it, I was like, you are the most consummate artist in the world, and I learned from you.
Yes.
I was like, I get it. I
Yes,
get it.
You get it. Does she really have a mall in her mansion?
Yeah. She took Stephen Colbert on a tour of it.
It's in Palm. Is it in Palm Springs? Where? It's like out in the desert. Where is it?
Oh, it's very famously on the shores of Malibu, and she tried to
Oh.
sue to get the pictures of it off the internet, and then that caused the Barbara Streisand effect, which is when you try and suppress something and bring more attention to it.
That's funny.
But she discusses that in the book, and she says, I can't believe I'm going into all
Let's
this
do it.
detail. She says, that they had pictures of lots of people's homes, but hers was the only one that listed who the owner was, and that's why she wanted to sue. And I was like, good for you, Barbara.
Mhm. Yeah, it's hard out there for these celebrities. I will say though, the one thing that SoCal living has radicalized me about is beaches. I think all beaches should be public. I don't think private beaches should be allowed.
I kind of am with you.
Right?
Yeah,
Barbara, give it to us.
yeah.
We will
and
rake it, keep
I
it
think
clean.
in Maui, you
Mhm.
can't have a private beach. So like
Good.
even fancy hotels, anybody can come to the beach. They can't necessarily sit in the chairs that the
Yeah.
hotel provides,
But
but
they can come.
yeah, which I think is
Right?
beautiful. It's also it's like yeah, it's monetizing nature.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
And I
Yeah.
think in these times of the billionaires,
Yeah.
but she's not on a beach, she's on a cliff.
You can keep that. You can keep that. I love that all of the chapters of your book are named after some of these memoirs.
Mhm.
So there's Are You There, Vodka? It's Me, Chelsea. The
Great
Chelsea
one.
Handler one. Great one. The House of Hidden Meanings from RuPaul.
Also great. Can't
Little
wait for the next volume.
Little Girl Lost from Drew Barrymore. That's a great name. For the
Did
book.
you ever read that one? That's
No.
like from the 80s. Like she wrote it when she was like 14.
The fact that she still has any semblance of sense after all she's been through.
I know. I'm sure that one was ghostwritten, but I did read it. I mean, I read that like when it came out.
Finding Me from Viola Davis.
Such a good one.
Right.
Also good to listen to.
Did she read it?
Yeah.
Oh, so
She won a
that's the
Grammy for it.
voice
That's
of
how she
God.
got her
That's how
EGOT.
she egotted.
Mm-hmm.
The memoir is called Actress of a Certain Age, My 20-Year Trail to Overnight Success. Jeff Hiller, it was a joy to read it, and
Thank
an
you.
even bigger joy to talk to you about it.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun.
This was delightful. Thank you for what you do and the good energy you put out into the world. I appreciate you.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Had a good gay old time. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
See y'all next week. Bye.